You're tuned in to the Marketing Lawcast with Jennifer Goddard. This is where estate planning and elder law firms turn for high-octane marketing strategies and powerhouse success stories. Brace yourselves for game-changing digital marketing tips, professional sales training, and exclusive interviews with industry gurus and top-tier attorneys smashing the 6- and 7-figure barrier. It's time to drive your practice to success. Welcome to the Marketing Lawcast.
Good morning. This is Jennifer Goddard with the Marketing Lawcast, and I'm here today with my guest, Victoria Collier. Victoria is a seasoned entrepreneur with more than 20 years of experience in the legal industry. In addition to building and selling her own 7-figure law firm, she's been coaching lawyers since 2008 on how to add value to their law firms. As the founder and CEO of Quid Pro Quo, it is her mission to teach others the art and science to creating turnkey law offices, positioning to transition, and selling for profit. Victoria holds certifications in exit planning and business valuations. So there's the formality out of the way. So Victoria, you and I have known each other for a long time. We've been friends for at least 10, 15 years. And when I first met you, you were working in VA benefits and estate planning. Can you tell us a little bit about your law firm experience?
Sure, absolutely. So, and thank you for having me, Jennifer. So I started my own law firm right out of law school in 2023. And I actually graduated in 2022 and 2002, not 2023.
I was going to say
2002. And I knew I was going to start my own law firm. And, you know, there's 6 months between when you graduate and when you actually get your bar license, at least in the state of Georgia. And so I found a person who was actually miserable at what he was doing, which was family law. And I said, come work with me and let's use your bar license, but we're going to do elder law. And I chose elder law because I had been a nurse's aide in a nursing home when I was younger. Just loved the population. And I could be with them all day long and not get paid for it. But then I found that, hey, there's this somewhat new industry. I mean, it really only came to fruition in the 1980s, 1990s with the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. And so I flooded the market with my application first, you know, as far as my resume to see if I could work for someone else. But in Atlanta at that time in 2002, there was only like 5 lawyers who did elder law, and they were all sole practitioners. None of them really cared to add anyone to their staff. And so I opened my own firm, and I'm so grateful that I did. And then a year later, the partner that I brought in, he retired, which was good for both of us. And what I learned was that while helping people in the traditional elder law firm, which meant at that time Medicaid planning, was that many people live in assisted living and they have to prematurely go to nursing homes because they run out of money. And that's where I really learned about the veterans benefits, was that how can we keep these people in the assisted living and maybe even at home so that they don't have to prematurely go to nursing homes. Because I had worked in nursing homes, and while I think it's a great place when someone needs that level of care, sometimes we don't need that level of care. We just are there because we don't have the money. And so that was what then started my career in teaching and coaching other lawyers. Was I had one particular client that said, why didn't anyone tell us about this benefit? And her mother-in-law had been in a facility for 4 years and they were dead broke. And I basically cried right along with her and said, because nobody knows about it. And that's when I decided people are going to know about this, and not just one-on-one individual veterans in the facilities, but lawyers as well. And so I started teaching lawyers about veterans benefits back in 2006, 2008.
Yeah, I think that's kind of when our paths crossed. You were really on the forefront, a real leader in that movement.
I was on the pension side. Certainly, there's been lawyers helping service-connected disabled veterans since the beginning of time. But this pension for wartime veterans, which is only available for people who served in a wartime period, who generally don't have service-connected benefits, can get this. And that's why so many people don't know about it, because, you've gotten out of the service 40 years before you have a disability that's not related to your service. And now you need this benefit. And so how I was able to help primarily, in addition to the veterans, was this is a whole segment, a whole new line of business for estate planning lawyers and elder law attorneys. And so that way they could not only help more and better in better ways, but it was a whole new income stream for them. And so you were right. I was on the cutting edge. And as part of that, I was also on the butcher block. I had the VA coming down on me. I had, seriously, I thought the VA was going to come and shut me down as a lawyer. And still today, I co-own a business that all we do is help veterans apply for veterans benefits. And every day, I think they're going to come and shut us down. Somebody's going to try to. So.
Yeah, that's what they're good for. So you built this amazing law practice. And then the kind of the next thing that I heard from you was you were in a new business. I would love to hear the story of that transition.
Yeah. Well, I loved my law practice. I had it for 18 years. And again, I love the population we served, seniors, and helping them preserve what they had created, so that they would not have to sacrifice their quality of life or their quality of care. And so bringing it back to veterans, there were moments throughout having my law firm that I thought about exiting for various reasons. But the moment that stuck was when I was about to give a presentation on Veterans Day in front of veterans. And there was a woman sitting in the front row waiting for the presentation, and she started heckling me. And I thought, why am I doing this? And I don't mean, why am I up here on this presentation? Because I love being on stage, that. And not why am I talking about veterans benefits? Because I love that. I myself am a veteran. So, it's a natural connection. But why am I still doing this? Because it just wasn't right for me anymore. And when I realized that, then I knew it wasn't right for my clients anymore either. And so then I put in a strategic plan to get my office in shape so that I could sell it. I did not have the option of just closing the doors like what has been the history and tradition of law firms. I was 48 years old when that decision was made. I was 50 when I actually sold it. And I didn't have a huge nest egg. I still have minor children, and I have a spouse that hasn't worked since my children were born. So I'm the sole provider. And so I needed seed money to fund my next two businesses. One was a farm. So I bought a farm, and that was primarily for my children, my daughter specifically. And then also to help other lawyers be able to exit their practices. One thing to keep in mind is that, when I was coaching lawyers from 2008 all the way up through, now, most of them were much older than me. They were already in their 50s and 60s when I was teaching in 2008, 2009, 2010. And so when they saw that I had sold my practice, I was getting a lot of calls saying, hey, can you help me do the same? Can you help me do the same? And so while this business was going to be supplementing the farm, it actually turned around the other way around. So
I can imagine that there is a lot of demand. If you would please, Victoria, kind of walk me through what you see. I know you've been coaching people on this. What is the common, or if there are common threads that where an attorney gets to the point where they say, I would like to sell my practice? What's kind of that thought process? And I know there's probably more than one.
Right. What I hear most often, and what is surprising to me, is that the people are younger than I would have thought. They're actually my age, in their early 50s, and they're contemplating exiting their practice. Maybe not this year, but within the next 3, 5, 10 years. And so people are starting to think about it sooner than I think ever before. And what I see a lot is this is not the words they use, but I'm not fulfilled. Right. I think this was supposed to look different than it is. And I want something different. I just don't know what that is or how to get there. But ultimately, they're burned out. They're tired. They're sole practitioners in many cases. And so they want connection. They want collaboration. But yet they don't want staff members. They don't want to manage anybody. And those who do have team members, many of them, what I'm seeing is, I've built a great team. I want to take care of them, but I want something different. I want to be young enough to enjoy the next phase, whatever that is for me. And so that's what I hear more than anything.
Right, right. I hear that a lot as well. So when someone comes to you and they say kind of those words, or at least that's those subtitles, right? Those are the subtitles. Mm-hmm. What do you tell them?
Well, first we have to find out, are you truly burned out, or do you truly want to get out? Because we can get out from being burned out and keep our practice and fall in love with it again, right? And I don't want someone to prematurely exit their firm and then regret that decision in the future just because they're burned out, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we discover that and provide the self-care that's necessary and provide the structure around the firm that they can love again? And that may not be me as their coach. That may just be identifying that is the real issue. Why don't you get to somebody who can help you with that? If they truly do want out, which I can tell fairly early on because they have visions of what they would be doing afterwards. Unless it's time to retire. I mean, there's sometimes people that are 75 years old that say, it's just time. I'm that age. I don't know what I'm going to do afterwards. But that's different feel than the burned out feel. So if they truly want to exit, then, and it would be right for them, and we help them visualize the future, what that is, then certainly the first step of that is getting a valuation. So we see, where are we starting from and where do you need to be for your next phase to be? So the first step is, are you burned out, or do you really want to get out?
So I think I have a client that I may have several clients that are working with you that I don't know everybody, but I know of one who's working with you, and she is in that position where she's not unhappy with her firm, but she's looking towards a retirement because she has other things she would like to do. Right. So I know that some of the things that she's doing is just kind of, like you said, getting her ducks in a row, getting her practice so that it runs better without her there.
Right. And that is, if someone wants to get true value paid to them, the more disconnected you can be from your firm, the more valuable it is to someone else, the more money they're willing to pay for that. Because many buyers are not going to want to come in and be you as the lawyer. The buyers of today are entrepreneurial lawyers who want to own businesses that create passive income. Well, it's not passive if they have to walk in and be the lawyer. Right. And so, yes, automation, team, automatic marketing are the top three things that we would want to put in place. And then we monitor that through looking at the data and the numbers. You got to be on top of those numbers. Without that, you can't even begin to see what kind of firm you have, much less prove the value of it.
Right. What are some of the biggest mistakes that lawyers make before they come to you that kind of puts them in a position where it's very difficult to sell the practice?
I would say that the biggest mistake is that they have decided that they don't have any options and they start winding down beforehand. And then now they're like, oh, well, somebody told me that I could sell this. Let's do a valuation. I'm like, but now you have no staff. You've let them all go. You've stopped taking cases. So where is the value? And so that's hard. And so the hard part is, number one, saying you may not have value because of that. I mean, really what we're doing in that case is we're selling a book of business, which is just your list. And now we have to see, is it a hot list or a cold list, right? Because those have two different values. And so then the question is, what are you willing to do if you want more value out of it? Are you willing to hire people back up? Are you willing to take cases? Are you willing to put some work into it? If someone's burned out they are not willing to do all those things. And then we have what we call a fire sale. And it just now, just in this very moment, it just occurred to me, burned out, fire sale, they actually go together.
Right.
But like the burning part of it. But if they have the mental capacity and they have the time, then some are willing to actually make some adjustments. And I would recommend that if they want to actually get a real buyer that's willing to put up some money.
Sounds like it's a little bit like selling a house. So is your house run down and you just can't keep up with it anymore and you're going to sell it at a lower price? Or are you going to able to put some effort and money into it, fix it up, get it ready to sell at a top dollar?
Absolutely. And then you still got the other options, foreclosure and short sales with a house, which I think that are also comparable to law firms, right? So a foreclosure is you just pretty much let somebody come and take it and get the pennies off of it. That's the old traditional way of just handing it to your buddy so that someone's taking care of those clients. A short sale is, well, I'll pay you 50,000 and you go on your way. And so at least maybe now my debts are paid off and I'm happy about that. And then there's the top value. So.
Right. So when things go really well, what's the best case scenario that you could describe for someone if they really want to do this right and they're willing to put in the work? What's the dream scenario?
Right. So the dream scenario would be, I would like to sell my firm within the next 1 to 5 years. And I need to know what it's valued at. So let me get the valuation. Great. So then now, based on the valuation and all the, review of the firm, what's the top 3 things we could implement or change or just make different so to bring in value? And so what kind of timeline do we have? If we have a year, what are we going to implement? If we have 3 years, what will we implement? And then a year prior to actually wanting to transfer the keys is when we'd want to start advertising it for sale. Depending on the location, depending on the type of firm, like what services they provide, will essentially dictate how fast or slow this process may take. I've had very good success with estate planning firms in selling them very quickly in most cases, depending on the location and the reasonableness of the seller. Let's always throw that in there too. So I would say, number 1, get the valuation. Number 2, spend a year cleaning house. Number 3, and cleaning house could be adding new programs. It could be adding staff. It could be getting rid of staff. It could be beefing up the marketing. It could be a lot of different things. And that's why every single firm is very different, Jennifer. And that's why, when people say, well, you could just sell it for, X amount of multiple on your revenue, they're not taking into account any of those other factors, right, and whether or not someone actually will want the firm. And so that's what we do is we are trying to help them become a desirable firm to sell, regardless of the value. It's let's make you someone who's attractive for someone else to buy.
Very, very good. What's the typical timeline? Is it typically a year, or does it just vary so much that you can't tell me?
It varies greatly, but I can tell you that, for example, the very first firm I sold, I was hired in February. We were under a letter of intent in May, and we closed on it in September of that same year. And that was estate planning. The very last firm that we sold, we went to market in December. We were under letter of intent in February, and we closed in May. Those were 2 very fast ones. I represented the sellers. I knew the buyer on both sides, and I reached out to them and said, hey, here's a firm. Do you want to buy it? So those went very quickly. I had another one another estate planning firm that we went to market. We had 3 offers within the first 3 months, and we accepted one. And the day before closing, my clients pulled out. And so then we now are on the market again. We have 1 offer right now, and we have some other people who are interested in, seeing what it's all about. So, I would say from an estate planning law firm perspective, if you're reasonable in what your asking price is, I think it can be reasonable to sell an estate planning practice within 6 to 12 months from when you go to market. Other practice areas may not be as favorable, but estate planning is fairly easy.
Very interesting. So how do you find your buyers, and do you have a network that you work to develop, buyer relationships?
So there's very few businesses out there that do anything close to what we do. And I think that we are the only business out there that does it this way. And what we do is I do have a staff of professionals that when we have a seller, we then build a list of prospective buyers, and we are on the phone all day long, calling, smiling, and dialing people who could be prospects to buy our firm. And then we're also emailing, and then we're also doing direct mail to this list. And then also one of the things that we are going to start doing, which we haven't done yet, is we're going to list all of our clients on Biz by Sell, which is a database of just any businesses for sale, because we have seen some traction on there with a couple of our clients. So, that kind of exposure, but really what's been successful is just picking up the phone and calling.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing can replace that personal touch, and just that you can't get away from it. I think all those other things, they help a lot, but at the end of the day, you're going to be on the phone, sounds like.
Right. And then what we do is another extra step, and that is we actually screen the prospects before we ever let them talk with our clients, because we're not going to waste our clients' time. We're not going to waste their time if they're not somebody who's serious and they're just if they're just curious and not serious, then we're going to weed them out.
Right, exactly. So was this anywhere on your vision when you decided to exit your own law firm that you would do this?
It actually was not. I was just going to be a farmer. And so I did farm for 2 years, but I also am an entrepreneur throughout. And I've been working with lawyers forever. And prior to me selling my law firm, I did get certification in exit planning for my own estate planning clients who had their own businesses. And so when I was contacted to help sell the first firm that I sold, I thought, there is a need for this, and I can do this and the farm at the same time. And then this business just grew so much, so fast. And there's such a need out there that I actually stopped farming. And this is what I do now. And no, it was not my original vision, but I can say it's very aligned with what my lifetime purpose has always been, my personal mission and why. And that is to help people live the best life, no matter where they are in their phase of life. And that's what this does, is it helps lawyers, as I say, have a life after law, and we help them find that.
That is awesome. And as you say, it is so aligned with who the person is that I know in you. Yeah. So if there are some of our listeners who are out there and they're thinking, boy, I really want to figure out how I can sell my law firm, what do they need to do?
The first step really is to, schedule a consultation with us. But if they want to learn about us first, we've got a private Facebook group called The Art of Buying and Selling Law Firms. Certainly, as you know, we've got our podcast called Smart Lawyers Position to Transition. And I titled it that way on purpose. It is a positioning stance if you want to get value out of it. It's not just one day I wake up and say, hey, let me get rid of this. We need to position. But ultimately, having a conversation with us to figure out what's the value and where do you want to go with this, and what value do you need to get out of it? Right. Are we there, or do we need to do some things to get there?
So should they go to your website to schedule a call, or?
Yes, our website is quidproquolaw.com. And on there are the options is to, if you want to buy a law firm, we can help you with that. If you want to sell a law firm, we can help you with that. If you just want a valuation, we can help with that. And so there's different scheduling links on there based on what your goal is.
Awesome. Oh, terrific. Wonderful having you on the show today, Victoria, and great reconnecting and learning more about what you're doing. And I'm sure there are many attorneys out there who are saying, wow, this is exactly what I need. I need to make that phone call.
Well, I appreciate that. And, the people I like working with best are like people who come through your services because they've already focusing on their numbers and they've got that marketing going on. And I already know they're desirable from the beginning. So I look forward to hearing from anyone that has come through your network.
Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks.
That's a wrap on this edition of the Marketing Lawcast. Thanks for joining us. Head over to www.imsrocks.com for more growth-focused insights. If you're ready to skyrocket your firm's marketing, don't hesitate to book a free discovery call with our team right on our website. Here's to your success. See you next time.